Nighttime on Still Waters. This is NB 506812, narrowcasting into the night from somewhere on Britain's waterways. "12th of April, Sunday. From Bridge 55. Children and old men lean on Georgian ironwork, warmed by the sun, and gaze in silence into the waters below. One sees time like slow waters drifting past, the other the wonder of a world unfurling. Maggie plunges her head under calm waters, retrieves a stick, and I thought I saw a smile in her eye. To borrow from Dylan Thomas, it's a spring moonless night tonight, though it's not quite starless or Bible black. Scudding clouds play with the stars, and the paper-thin sickle of a new moon has just slipped below the western horizon. A playful breeze feathers patches of the canal's mirrored surface, and along the bankside, the new growth rushes and reeds are beginning to learn to dance with the wind. Still slightly stiff, awkward, unable to find that supple flex and bend in their new stems, adolescents at a village hall dance. And a moorhen scuttles knowingly, keeping to the lamb-bleating dark edges. And this is the narrowboat Erica, narrowcasting into the darkness of a spring night in April, to you, wherever you are. I'm so pleased you managed to make it. How are you? I hope you're well. It's a perfect spring night, but the temperature is beginning to tumble, and we'll be lucky to escape a frost tonight. So, come inside where the stove is glowing cosily and the kettle is singing. There's a seat waiting especially for you. So watch your head as you come down the hatch, and welcome aboard. April morning and April light. That special, unique kind of light that you only get at 2 times a year at this latitude. April and some of May, and September, and some of October. A special kind of clean-washed light, with a blue sky. The blue of the broken stumps of chalks that I had as a child, the blue of forget-me-nots and eyebright, speedwells, geranium and cornflower. And with it, that light. It's the kind of light that always makes me pause. It can literally stop me in my tracks. It's a light that reminds me that sometimes in this life there are things that you can continually experience for the first time, even though it may have happened many, many, many times before. And each year, that same shock of wonder has struck me under that same blue sky in that same special quality of light. I would try to describe it, but I can't. But I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that light. That quality of light you can find only in a Croyer painting, or on the beach beyond the pine woods at Wells, or standing in the garden pegging out laundry on the line and looking up as you glimpse blue among pillowed white of climbing clouds and the tops of emerald green fountains of fully leafed horse chestnut trees on a blowy, wonderful April morning. And it's all brought to us by the accidental chance of meteorology and the Earth's tilt around the sun at these precise moments. And who knew it could grant us such splendours in this slant of precious light? And along the towpath that light, gold with morning and softened by an inversion mist that clings to the valleys and the soft bowls folded into the patchwork of fields, that blue and its light have yet to appear. But it will be only a matter of time. And the hawthorn has taken up the baton, replacing the honey-sweet snowdrift of blackthorn with its own. Bluebells and cowslip daub the water's edge with colour, and the fields above us are thickly scattered with dandelion suns, blazing rich gold and buttery, humming with life. And the other day I came across the first patch this year of ladysmock, cuckoo flower, milky white, blushing delicately pink. And in the wooded cutting, carpets of celandines are still flowering in the deep green oceans of their leaves, and the sea wrack of goosegrass and young dead nettle. And the elephantine leaves of burdock lie proud and easy on the rising tide of green, like great landlocked lily pads. Pinpricks of purple vetch stud the undergrowth like discarded necklaces. Tiny white stars of wild garlic mustard glint and glimmer, and the first embryonic parasols of cow parsley are beginning to show among the profusion of green feathery leafage of wild carrot, parsnip, cranesbill, and hogweed. And on Horse Hill the 5 apostles graze the mist-wet grass, their flanks wet with dew, and their breath snorting clouds of steam. One is still asleep, lying on his side, and in the lifting mist his grey body rises like a beached whale caught upon the sands. He lifts his head as we approach, and then lowers it again. We continue to climb out of the mist and into the sunshine, and the blue, and the light. That miraculous, special April light. It's been lovely to hear from you. Thank you so much for taking the time and trouble to contact me. And all the contact details are in the program notes below. On YouTube, greetings to Brendan Doyle over in Maine, and I totally agree that apricity is a wonderful new/old word and should be brought back into common parlance. And you're not late with the comment. For some reason, YouTube comments didn't make it to my notes for the last episode, and it's entirely my fault. So I'm also really glad that you are enjoying the Flower of Gloucester. Hello and chin chin to John McMunn too, and I hope all is going well with you. And it's lovely to hear from Lockwheeler Tanya Yorgay over in Australia. I hope you and Taki are doing well, Tanya. And thank you for your kind comments. And I'm glad to hear that things are beginning to cool down for you a bit over there. Although over here, we would still think that 31 degrees is blistering rather than cooling. And talking of weather, hello to Captain Arlo, and thank you for your email in response to my question about, doesn't it feel a bit weird seeing huge mountains of piled snow when the temperature around is in the mid-20s centigrade? And apparently the answer is that, although it's not unheard of, yes, it can feel a bit strange. And also, Captain, I love the photo of the young you looking very dashing in that captain's chair. And also, I really love all the stories that went along with it. And it was lovely, as always, to hear from Lee Thomas. Thank you so much for that book recommendation, Lee. That one is now definitely on my must-read list, and I'm going to be hunting it out. And I hope that you're now enjoying some wonderful sunshine and getting some well-needed rest. And over on Facebook, hello to Christine Hamill. Thank you for responding to the last episode about the borrowing days. and posting a video of a fairly hefty snowfall that she was experiencing in Scotland. And greetings also to Jean Mann. Yeah, I can imagine that those winds must have been particularly cutting, and I really loved that photograph of a bright but chilly Barton Broad under that stunning Norfolk sky. And I want to say a really special and heartfelt thank you to Josie Wren for your wonderful and kind podcast review. Thank you so much, Josie. And I'm delighted that you enjoyed the podcast, and it's so lovely to have you here aboard. And thank you also to the flood of comments that I've been receiving and the support from you. Thank you to Lochwheeler Anna McKellar, and to another long-time listener, Callie Conway, who listens to this podcast while she's creating her wonderful prints. And thank you also to Kaz on Galatea, and I'm also pleased that you still find this podcast soothing, Kaz. And to Amanda and Matt Keynes, thank you for your kind words. Hello and greetings also to old friend of the podcast, Sherry Rauch. And while I'm on the thank yous, I must say a huge thank you to all of our Lochwheelers for supporting this podcast. They are Anna McKellar, Susan Baker, Mind Shambles, Clare Hollingsworth, Kevin B., Fleur and David Mcloughlin, Lois Raphael, Tanya Yorgay, Andrea Hansen, Chris Hines, Chris and Alan on the narrowboat The Land of Green Ginger, Captain Arlo, Rebecca Russell, Alison on the narrowboat Mucker, Derek and Pauline on Silver Fox, Anna V, Orange Cookie, Mary Keane, Tony Rutherford, Arabella Holtzapfel, Rory with MJ and Kayla, The Narrowboat Precious Jet, Linda Reynolds Birkins, Richard Noble, Carol Ferguson, Tracy Thomas, Mark and Tricia Stowe, and Madeline Smith. Thank you. I'm in the process of reading Joe Bell's brilliant Boater, A Life on England's Waterways. She's an archaeologist and a poet. In fact, she was the inaugural poet laureate for the Canadian River Trust and Poetry Society from 2013 to 2015. And being a poet and archaeologist makes for a wonderful combination. She reads the heartbeat and life beneath the layers of encrusted soil and rust bloom and decay. It's a rare talent, bringing the past to life, and rarer still to secure our presence within that tangled phylogenetic network of our histories. Working muddy trenches in building sites in the driving winter rain with numb fingers and a burning back, and then the late nights hunched over a computer keyboard, translating scrawled field notes and pieces of broken clay that weep water in pools under the desk lamp into the martial facts and figures and rigour that is required from august journals, could sap any poetry out of anyone. But not for Joe Bell. What it does is it brings a special quality of dirt and grit, the realities of the imperfect, to her poems and to her writing in general, and certainly to Boater, A Life on England's Waterways. It's the sort of thing that keeps a piece of writing honest. I'm only about 3/4 of the way through, but I'm enjoying it immensely. Boater is a layered excavation of histories, both personal and national. Sometimes they blend together seamlessly, even difficult at times to tease them apart, but each rigorously and sensitively examined through the expert use of trowel, tape, and line level. word, and image. Here, the figures of history, both great and small. Thomas Telford, the female navvy, Lucky Logue, who worked the same gang as the notorious grave robbers and killers Burke and Hare, Meters, as fully fleshed and as real as Digger, and Kevin, the cantankerous marina manager who hates boaters, and Shaman Wayne. And the muddy swamp ways of early 17th century Cheshire become as familiar to us as Bugsworth or the gaggle of gongoozlers lined alongside the canal watching boats pass through Stenson's Lock, a lock in which, due to the crass behaviour of an overconfident hire-boater, almost sank Joe's boat. The culture that surrounds life on the Cut is often hard to pin down. As Bell notes, historically it was a tough, hard-working, orally driven society, often illiterate and with little spare time for creative pursuits. And so those first working the system left no rich seam of literature or music to provide us with the tangible glimpse of their worlds. But then, a lack of evidence, she argues, should not be confused for evidence of a lack. Culture was, and is still, there. But it's often in intangible ways, behaviours, actions, highly localised and specialised vocabulary. It's in the place names, job titles, the what is now defined as the psychogeography of the place. And for a while, Jo was based a few miles away from us, while working with the Working Boats Project, in what she describes as the most flagrantly English section of English canals. And it was here that she gained her love, knowledge and deep respect for the canal system and the boaters, in all the colourful and varied forms of them that it has supported throughout its 250 years of existence. It introduced her to the distinction of purist conservation and living heritage, helping to nudge her in the direction of a working solution, for her at least, to the paradox of the ship of Theseus, or Trigger's Broom as it's now more popularly known. The history of the canals and its people is living, messy, sometimes contradictory, but it is living. And so in Jo Bell's book, the living past and the present rub shoulders together, often within the same chapter, in the ways that they often do on the canal. It's difficult not to suddenly be torn from the present when passing under a bridge cut deep with scour lines made by the rain-wet gritty tow ropes, or turning a corner and coming across a derelict wharf, thick with the fiery smoke of willow herb and shattered concrete and ghosts. And so, under Jo Bell's well-adapted eye, ripples from the ephemeral and even ineffable past can still be silently felt, shimmering across those still waters of our present. Most of us live afloat, Jo writes, not because it's cheaper than the house, but because we find it better than a house. It's not a lifestyle, it's a life. And I particularly love Jo's description of finding and buying her narrowboat Tinker, and that almost instinctive mutual embrace between human and a somehow living entity of steel and wood, brass and diesel and oil, that creates a relationship that's difficult to replicate in bricks and mortar. That click, the indefinable event that is deeper than rational thought. This stuff is as much about the intangible mysteries of the heart, or maybe something even deeper, as it is about the processes of the mind. And like Jo, we'd viewed and agonized over many, many boats before we found the Erica. And we both had a list of criteria to guide us. I was adamant that it should feel like a boat, not a caravan or mobile home without wheels. And I perched on divans and dinettes with a critical eye. And over time, our criteria morphed and adapted as we got to know boats better. And as we talked to more and more brokers and any liveaboards who had the misfortune to be in our vicinity, we'd sort of given adequate consideration to the winter cold, but hadn't given any thought to summer heat. And so duck hatches became an essential and not just a quirky novelty. And there were at least 2 other boats on our list of possibilities for our life afloat that on paper looked far better bets than the Erica. So why the Erica? We were even on the brink of putting down a deposit and booking a survey on one. So what stopped us? We were extremely excited and full of plans, but even so, what was it that held us back? Why the Erica? What was it about this particular boat that kept calling us back? Jo, I think, gets to the heart of it when at the beginning of her chapter on buying a boat, she begins with her poem, A Marriage. The 13th boat they show me, Tinker, is the first I know for mine. The pheromones of hemp and brasso, varnish, rust, there's always rust. The based note of warm steel and bilge oils, coal and toast. It's not called must for nothing, that smell, that rush that summons back to love. Suck it up. The cabin chemistry of laundry, chains and diesel, sweat sweet, signalling our match. What makes this boat not box is all around. I move, and it replies. With every step the floor shifts underfoot. My own weight answered. I step forward, and the boat steps back, recentered. We shimmy, we judder, we jive. We're learning how our new joined self must move. The courtship starts as courtships start, with call and gradual response. The floors are narrow, but the drift is part of how we dance. And here I think we're beginning to get to the answers for my previous question. How will I know the right person to marry, the young me would ask, and have subsequently been asked countless times later. And the answer is always the same. You will know. But how will I know? You will know. But what if I don't? What if I never get that certainty, or just don't recognize it when it comes? You will know. How did I know that Donna was the one for me? Because I knew. How did I know? I don't know how I knew. I just knew. There's no real way of explaining things like this, because it's not in the how, the process or the method of the thing of knowing. It's entirely in the knowing. Jo Bell again. Here she's describing how she first encountered the unremarkable, functional rather than elegant Tinker, with her friend and colleague and mentor from the Working Boats Project, who was there to offer a veteran boater's wisdom on finding a good boat to buy. The cabins were dark and slightly damp, the bathroom mouldy and disgusting. But there was the promise of warmth from a double-door log burner and 3 long radiators. The front doors were solid steel, so I could reassure my mother that no one on the towpath would break in and club me to death. At the very front of the boat was a 6-foot-long cratch space with a tent-like green cover and glazed panels. But none of this mattered. I knew as soon as I found her, as soon as I breathed in that sweet wood and dirt and diesel scent of her cabins, it was chemistry all right, as perfect as any between lovers. I filled my lungs again and again with that pheromone mix of wood, varnish, diesel, the tangs of metal and coal. It was a space made of steel, but with life and warmth in it. And there was, too, the way the hull moved. As we walked around opening cupboards and pressing light switches, the boat shifted in response to our moving bodies. They all do this. Each one carries its build, ballast, and fit out differently. And there was something about the way that the weight of this boat moved to meet mine, and we began to dance. She was not a remarkable boat, not a rare nor elegant or particularly beautiful boat, but she was my boat. And it's true, buying a boat to live on is not really like any other purchase you'll make. It's the commencement of a relationship. Sometimes initially it can feel a bit breathless and star-filled, but often hesitant, attended by that shy awkwardness and diffidence of a first date that can make you ham-fisted and talk as if you were a complete stranger to yourself, and an annoying stranger at that. It's really about learning each other's languages. For that, you need to find the right boat. And I loved listening to Jason and Karen Polite talking about their new boat, Dera Rosa, and the excitement and joy, but also the recognition and the way that they talked about the things that were not perfect, the jobs that needed doing, the things that required to be sorted, the changes needing to be made. But, and it's the most important but of all, their relationship together had already begun. So yes, on paper, other boats did seem to have an edge on the Erica. None were perfect. We couldn't afford perfection, even if it does exist. But they maybe had an edge. And it was true that there were several boxes on our non-negotiable list, the things that a boat had to have, the deal breakers, that, for the Erica, remained unticked. And those in themselves should have made us reject her. But we didn't. Moreover, it was clear that her paintwork was a bit tired, and the cratchboard was on its last legs, and the entire stern fit-out was all wrong. But out of all the boats we had seen, and there were many, it was to her our talk and dreams kept returning. Yeah, but she doesn't have... Yeah, but we can change that. But we could also change it on Lazy Days 3, or whatever the name of the other contender might have been. Yeah, but it wouldn't be quite the same. And so we kept returning, standing together in the saloon, which neither of us particularly liked, and which felt strangely anonymous and sterile. Oh, it was ideal for extended holidays, but not the cheery warmth of a welcoming hearth. But we also could feel something untangible, indefinable about her. A faint smell of wood and metal, oil and diesel and dust and ozone, and the silence when words have long stopped being spoken. And we play once more with latches and lockers, open the duck hatch, fiddle with taps as we'd done so many times before, not because we needed to, but it was just something to do, while we listened and felt for a deeper conversation that was happening between us and this steel box. This was never to be decided on latches and dinettes, or even the thickness of steel and engine hours. The acid test, my thought experiment that we rigorously applied to every boat we stepped aboard. Mid-February, drenched, cold, hungry, trudging along a towpath with 3 carrier bags full of shopping. What would it be like to step on board? Coat dripping, hands raw, tired. Where do you put your bags? What do you do with your coat? Where do you place your muddy boots? Is it doable? What would it feel like? And we stood in the stern compartment of the Erica and imagined. I think it would feel like coming home. This is the Narrowboat Erica, signing off for the night and wishing you a very restful and peaceful night. Good night. Temperature outside 3.7 degrees, inside 22 degrees, humidity 83%, dew point 1 degree, wind direction northwest, wind strength 6 miles per hour, barometric pressure 1024.7 rising, cloud cover 20%, cloud ceiling 40,000 feet, precipitation 0.76 millimeters, moon phase 2.5%, waxing crescent, day length 14 hours 7 minutes, sunset 2010, sky casting 6:01.